faithfully sharing value by interpreting the world's best books. Hi, I'm Sally, and this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, I'll be interpreting the book Toyota's Daily Habits. So, what comes to mind when you think of Toyota as a company? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. In car manufacturing, Toyota is definitely a top dog. In 2020 and 2021, Toyota ranked first in global sales for 2 years straight. Actually, Toyota wasn't always this strong. It's a classic latecomer that surged ahead. Toyota started making cars in 1947. Back then, GM and Ford had been around for 50 years already and were huge giants. In 1957, when Toyota first exported cars to the US, GM and Ford were already operating all over Europe and Asia. But by the late 1990s, the global auto industry had a pattern of 6 big and 3 smaller groups, and Toyota was already one of the top 6. By 2008, Toyota overtook GM as the world's top car maker. Its success hinges on its refined management methods, which industries everywhere keep studying. MIT's International Motor Vehicle Program did tons of research and found Toyota's management style is the best fit for modern manufacturing. This book also dives into Toyota's management methods. The author is a consulting firm called OGT Solutions, Inc. Founded in 2002, it's a joint venture between Toyota and Recruit Group, a major Japanese recruitment company. The consultants here are Toyota veterans with over 40 years experience, right during Toyota's big growth spurt. Their mindset and habits were deeply shaped by Toyota's strict management approach. They don't just follow Toyota's methods, they have a profound understanding of them. These experts took their Toyota experience and offered consulting across industries like retail, construction, finance, insurance, wholesale, and services in Japan, plus manufacturing abroad. In this book, these Toyota veterans share real cases on boosting efficiency and training staff, with many personal stories that make it relatable. The book has 4 chapters in total. The author summarizes 30 tips from production and personnel aspects. By organizing these, we see that managing a company ultimately comes down to managing tasks and managing people. On these 2 points, I'll interpret this book for you based on these 2 parts. First, let's look at managing tasks. To ensure the company's overall work runs smoothly, the most important thing is to establish a good system, so everyone has clear guidelines and a traceable process. So, right wing. So, how does Toyota do it? It has a complete set of work standard systems and problem-solving systems. First, let's look at the work standard system. Toyota categorizes work into value-added work, auxiliary work, and waste. These are the 3 main categories. What is value-added work? It refers to work that directly creates value. For example, on the production floor, it's things like processing materials and assembling parts. Auxiliary work, as the name suggests, supports value-added work. Though it doesn't directly create value, it's essential. For instance, before assembling parts, workers need to open the packaging and take the parts out. Also, to make parts easier to grab, workers arrange them neatly on shelves. This kind of supportive work is called auxiliary work. Waste, naturally, is any unnecessary work. For example, parts needed on the production line aren't placed within easy reach. Instead, they're piled up 5 meters away on open ground, unsorted. Workers have to walk over each time, rummaging through parts bins and walking back. This work adds no value and wastes energy and time. It's called waste. So, how can everyone efficiently complete value-added and auxiliary work and not let waste slow down the work pace? Toyota established a unified, clear standard for value-added and auxiliary work. Following it, anyone can achieve consistent results, ensuring stable product quality. A complete standard needs 3 parts. First, the sequence of completing the work. Second, the key points that determine whether the work is successful. Third, the rationale and context for executing those key points. Let's look at an example of installing a hose. Is it just about twisting one end onto the part? Actually, here's the standard for installing the hose. First, there's a sequence. Grab a hose piece, twist it onto the part, and clamp it once it covers 5 millimeters. Second, the key point for hose installation. The key to success is whether the hose is twisted in 5 millimeters deep. Moving on. Third key point, why exactly 5 millimeters? Because the hose needs enough length to cover the part and stop gas leaks. But enough is vague. That's why Toyota set 5 millimeters as the benchmark. But how do you show what it looks like? In practice, workers might just eyeball where 5 millimeters is. Toyota doesn't rely on guesses. They put a clip at the 5 millimeter mark, slide the hose to it, and clamp, and it's perfect. To make things crystal clear, Toyota provides a written SOP manual. Toyota stresses that SOPs must be written in plain language, easy to grasp at a glance. If the standard's confusing and nobody gets it, what's the point? So visuals are key in SOPs. Like in cooking, if a recipe says roll cut the veggies, but you don't know what that is, but add a picture or a video and it's clear as day. That's why Toyota's standards use tables instead of walls of text. So, what's step 1? And step 2? Tables mix text and pics for clarity. Key points are bold or colored. For tricky steps, there are demo videos workers can watch whenever. But covered value added and support work. Now on to waste. How do we get rid of it? The key is spotting where things are tough in the workflow and finding easier ways. Say, on an assembly line, the parts bin is at their feet. Workers have to bend and squat every time to grab parts, straining their backs and knees. That's pure waste. Here's how Toyota tackles waste. They put a shelf behind each worker's station, set boxes on it at waist height so workers don't need to bend or squat. Just turn around to grab parts. After setting standards, they must be enforced strictly. In fact, most problems happen because standards aren't followed closely, so checking if they're enforced is super important. Toyota's inspections mainly fall into 2 types: daily checks done by on-site staff like team leaders, and periodic checks. Daily checks focus on whether the production line is running well, floors are clean, and stuff like that. Periodic checks are done by supervisors like foremen or managers who regularly review the site and standards. Toyota has specific checklists that are super detailed. For example, just for handling tasks, there are 6 checks covering transport, path clearance, lighting, and more. And like to prevent goods from tipping, stacking height can't be over 3 times the base width, and so on. Also, supervisors don't give heads up before inspections. This pushes on-site staff to work carefully every day. With standards and checks, problems pop up easily. A worker found a nut while checking the factory aisle. Toyota's standard says floors must be spotless. So he wondered, why was there a nut here? He guessed it might have fallen off a trailer, so he checked all trailers and found one with a missing tire nut. If not caught in time, the tire could have come off, tilting the trailer and maybe causing a big accident. So, how should we solve problems once found? Let's look at Toyota's problem-solving system. In manufacturing, products are made on the production line. So, production line issues directly hit product quality, which is a major headache. For that, Toyota set up a cord pulling system. On Toyota's production line, above each worker's station is a cord. If they spot an issue, they pull it to light a warning lamp. When it lights, the whole line stops. At that point, the on-site inspector rushes over to check. If they can't fix it, they'll call all relevant personnel. For example, if it's a mold design flaw, they immediately get the mold designers and producers to inspect and analyze it. The line only restarts after the issue is resolved. Some might worry, won't this delay production? Stopping the whole line must cause huge waste, right? But Toyota sees this as minimizing losses, because when one step has a problem, the cause must lie between the start and that step. Stopping now means only checking that segment. If you wait till the whole process ends to find the flaw, you'd have to inspect everything. Way more time and effort. And if the product reaches consumers forcing a recall, that'd tank the company's reputation. Beyond line issues, Toyota also watches for other on-site surprises to see if the system's flawed. Once, a forklift scraped a pillar, chipping the paint. The accident was minor, but the risk was big. What if someone was walking between the forklift and pillar? Could have been deadly.
Or if goods rolled off and hit the pillar, product quality could suffer.
So the inspector took it seriously. After repainting, they checked daily for new damage.
If the pillar got scraped again, they'd audit the whole forklift team's compliance. One scrape might be a fluke, driver error, but repeated scrapes could mean bad facility design or management. Design's hard to change, but drivers can retrain, like speeding or improper loading causing goods to fall and scrape. All need tracking. When solving problems, Toyota follows key principles. First, tackle issues yourself. Toyota encourages staff to solve problems independently first, reduces waiting time. Plus, through solving it themselves, employees better understand the root cause. For instance, fixing equipment themselves reveals how it actually works. This lets them operate more professionally later on. Second principle, Genshi Genbutsu, go see the actual spot and thing, don't rely on reports.
People protect themselves instinctively, so they might twist facts favorably.
But physical objects at the scene don't lie. They show the truth. Once, a factory manager rushed to the scene after hearing a maintenance worker got hurt. He ignored the site head's report and crawled under the faulty equipment to check personally. Tables blend text and images for clarity. Key points are bolded or colored. Complex steps have demo videos. We've covered value added and support work. Now back to waste. How do we eliminate it? The trick: spot where the workflow feels toughest and find easier methods. Say, on an assembly line, parts bins at workers' feet force constant bending and squatting, straining backs and knees. That's pure waste. Toyota's fix: place a shelf behind each station with waist-high boxes. Workers just turn to grab parts, no bending. After setting standards, enforce them strictly. In fact, most problems stem from lax standard compliance, so checking enforcement is equally vital. Toyota's inspection work mainly falls into two categories. Daily checks are done by on-site staff, like team leaders. Daily checks focus on things like whether the production line work is done right, if the floors are cleaned, and so on. Periodic checks are carried out by management supervisors like foremen or managers, who periodically inspect the site and review standards. Toyota has specialized checklists that are super detailed. For example, just for handling tasks, there are 6 checks covering transport, pathway clearance, lighting suitability, and more. To prevent goods from tipping over, stacking height should be no more than 3 times the base width, among other things.
Also, management supervisors don't give advance notice before inspections.
This pushes on-site staff to work carefully every day. With standards and strict checks on whether they're followed, problems pop up easily. Well, an employee found a nut while inspecting the factory aisle. Toyota's workshop standard requires floors to be spotless. So he wondered, why was there a nut here? He guessed maybe a part fell off a trailer, so he carefully checked all trailers on site and found one with a missing tire nut.
If not caught in time, the trailer tire could have come off, causing goods to tilt, and possibly a major accident.
So, how should we solve problems once they're found? Let's look at Toyota's problem-solving system. In manufacturing, products are made through the production line. Therefore, production line issues directly affect product quality, which is a major headache. For this, Toyota set up a cord-pulling system. On Toyota's production line, above each worker station is a cord. If they spot an issue, they pull it to light a warning lamp. When it lights, the whole line stops. At that point, the on-site inspector rushes over to check. If on-site personnel can't fix it, they'll call all relevant people. For example, if they find a mold design problem, they'll immediately get the mold designers and producers to inspect and analyze it. The production line only restarts after the problem is solved. Many people might worry, won't this affect the product delivery schedule?
Stopping the entire production line must cause a lot of waste, right?
But Toyota believes this is the way to minimize losses, because when a problem occurs at this step, the cause must lie between the start and this point in the process. By stopping now, you only need to inspect this segment of the process. If you wait until the whole process is done to find the issue, you'd have to inspect everything, which takes more time and effort. And if the product reaches the market and affects consumers, forcing a recall, it could severely damage the company's reputation. Beyond production line issues, Toyota also continuously monitors other unexpected problems on site to see if there's a system flaw. Once, a forklift scraped a pillar, chipping the paint. The accident was minor, but the potential risk was significant. What if someone was walking between the forklift and the pillar? It could cause injuries or deaths. Or if goods rolled off and hit the pillar, it might affect product quality. So the inspector took it seriously. After repainting, they checked daily for new damage. If the pillar got scraped again, they'd audit the whole forklift team's compliance. One scrape might be a fluke, just a driver's occasional mistake. But repeated scrapes could mean poor facility design or management issues. Design is hard to change, but drivers can be retrained, like if speeding or improper loading caused goods to fall and scrape. All need ongoing tracking. When solving problems, Toyota has principles. First, solve issues yourself. Toyota encourages employees to solve problems themselves first, reduces waiting time, and through solving it themselves, employees better understand the root cause. For example, fixing equipment themselves reveals how it actually works. This allows them to operate more professionally in future tasks. The second principle is Genchi Genbutsu, meaning see the actual spot and thing yourself rather than relying on reports. People instinctively protect themselves, so they might not tell the whole truth, possibly twisting facts to their advantage. But physical objects at the scene don't lie. They show the actual situation clearly. A factory manager immediately rushed to the scene after hearing a maintenance worker got injured. He ignored the site manager's report and crawled under the faulty equipment to verify the worker's conditions. But you insisted on having to recollect data and create entirely new materials. This happened because only the deadline was shared, not the actual work content. After giving instructions, leaders track progress, monitor processes, ensure regular updates. This communication is key to monitoring. Toyota stresses communication must be concise and clear. No long-winded speeches. Everything in a report should fit on one A3 size sheet. So what goes on that paper? It tracks the entire problem-solving process. Define problem, grasp status, set goals, find root cause, plan countermeasures, execute, confirm results, standardize, outcomes. Each step gets a box. You see the problem's progress at a glance. This is Toyota's famous A3 culture. Toyota also has whiteboard culture. During on-site meetings, everyone stands around a whiteboard with A3-style content. This helps everyone grasp real-time situations, and leaving info on site allows absentees to check later. Having covered daily people management, let's discuss talent development. Many capable leaders prefer doing everything themselves, only telling subordinates what to deliver, because leaders think they're faster and more efficient than guiding struggling subordinates. But actually, developing talent is a leader's vital responsibility. Ultimately, the company's growth requires a steady flow of talent. On a smaller scale, capable assistants help leaders share the workload, keeping things running smoothly even when they're away. Plus, without training a successor to take their place, they can't leave that role or get promoted. So how exactly should we develop talent? Toyota often says, work from a perspective 1 or 2 levels above your own. At one level higher, think about when something happens, what instructions would a leader give and why? At 2 levels higher, also try to understand the leader's environment.
What pressures do they face?
Why must they make that call? Thinking from a higher perspective helps employees grow faster. Of course, for subordinates to gain their leader's perspective, imagination alone isn't enough. Leaders must communicate more. A Toyota engineer shares he talks with subordinates during lunch, tea breaks, even smoke breaks, discussing work issues. and offering advice. Besides encouraging big picture thinking, Toyota also urges leaders to assign slightly challenging tasks. Sticking to easy work stunts growth. Growth happens only by tackling work above your current level, like having staff take turns leading meetings or acting as project managers. Also, events like sports days, leisure gatherings, or study groups are great for developing skills. Since the 1950s, Toyota has held internal sports events run by employee groups. These large-scale events demand strong organizational skills from the runners. Some who fade in daily production shine during events. They join groups, help run things, and even gain confidence. Back at work, they grow into leadership roles. Finally, Toyota stresses caring for staff. Many managers make daily rounds to greet everyone. It builds rapport, allows face-to-face talks, and spots changes early. A manager in charge of painting operations shares he spends 1 to 2 hours each morning greeting all 200-plus employees individually. Toyota's care across levels is meticulous. It often extends beyond work. For example, with staff having hypertension or diabetes, leaders research healthy foods together. If a subordinate is stressed by heavy loans, the leader might even help devise repayment plans. This is Toyota's unique leadership culture, constantly thinking how to improve subordinates' lives.
That concludes the second part, managing people. It involves two aspects. Daily work. Leaders must assign tasks reasonably, give clear instructions, and communicate concisely.
The other aspect is talent development. Leaders should encourage higher perspective thinking, assign slightly challenging tasks, promote extracurricular activities, and show genuine care. Toyota's efficiency methods and talent systems aren't limited to manufacturers or large firms. Their core ideas apply to all industries and sizes. For employees anywhere, understanding management approaches can boost your own efficiency. After today's insights, do you have takeaways for your work? Feel free to share in the comments. All right, that's the habits Toyota sticks to every day. We'll wrap up here. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.